Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lyds, and we're back to break some more thrones, and, importantly, we have finally made it here to Aldersburg, which appears to be the final location in Eddard, and so I'm very excited to see what awaits us here at this, what I imagine is, last main quest location. For a second, last time looked like we had gotten there already, but no, there is, I would assume, at least one big encounter remaining. So, I think we poked our head over here previously, but the Nilfgaardian's just trying to trash talk us a bit, and, well, let's make our way over and do whatever we can to try to help King Demavend, because it is not looking good here. Here you see very significant Nilfgaardian outposts right on the edge of the city, and you can certainly hear the Nilfgaardian attack as well. Okay, so I was about to say, usually what we find, or at least based on what we saw at the end of Lyria, was we had this kind of update here, which is quite convenient, telling us how long we've spent in this area. Oh dear. How many quests, puzzles, battles, and chests we found, and so this should be a bit of a reality check for us to see, okay, are we good to go here? Are we ready to tie a bow on Eddard, or is there something that we have missed that we need to go back to? So, for example, hold on just a second, let's take a quick look at our map here. So, yes, this is, we've just confirmed, indeed, the final encounter in this area. But, was there anything that we left behind? These were just bridges that we could pay resources to build, but we deliberately did not spend the wood to do that, because we don't need them. And other than that, we had a few shrines that we had the option of taking. I think we did already take all of those because I thought there was an achievement for using a certain number of shrines. Maybe I'm making that up. I'm not sure if we got it when we did that, but either way, we are on high morale here, so we are as ready to go as we possibly could be, outside of, yes, potentially going over to our camp and, say, perhaps purchasing some unit upgrades or other upgrades of some variety. However, we have, of course, made it our own personal challenge to try to complete the entirety of Eddard without creating any additional cards and adding those to our deck. Of course, we found some from encounters that have just rewarded them to us directly. We're talking about, like, spending resources to build/craft new cards. That is what we have decided is our own handicap to make things a little bit more interesting, a little bit more challenging, and this will be our final test for Eddard. As for whether we'll continue to take that on in the next area, who knows. But, without further ado, let us proceed.
Gods have mercy, and demons take it all.
Oh. Wow. That doesn't look good.
Taking advantage of the confusion, Meve maneuvered her troops to the very walls of the old town. Spying Lyrian banners, the defenders suspected a trap. But when they noticed Black Railer among them, they immediately lowered the drawbridge.
Okay. This is, I suppose, coming from their perspective, not our perspective. For a second I was like, wait, hold on. I didn't remember that Black Rayla had gone ahead and forged her own group and tried to make progress by herself. Because it's like, wait, what? Anyways.
The old town was a maze of brothels and shady taverns. In normal times, students and other pleasure seekers prowled its dark alleys. Now, tired soldiers slumped in every corner, though the Lyrians' arrival clearly buoyed their spirits. The Fraternal Realms warriors clasped each other's hands and swapped tales. Even Eddard's king, Demavend, made no secret of his pleasure at seeing these unexpected arrivals.
Demavend is still here. We had heard that many people were saying that the battle was already lost. There was no chance Nilfgaard had already succeeded, driven off the Eddarnian forces, and I suppose maybe we did hear that King Demavend had done whatever he could to hang on for as long as possible, but it was certainly not sounding good. Perhaps a foregone conclusion that if they had not already lost, they were about to lose. But hey, maybe we arrived just in time.
Meve, of all the besieged cities in all the world, you walk into mine. Come to the rescue, have you?
Yeah, you could say that.
To be quite frank, I've come to be rescued.
That too. Sort of. See, the thing is, we're hoping that by rescuing you, you will in turn rescue us in sort of an instant karma Beatles-style kind of thing.
Oh, yes. I've heard much of the events in Lyria. Disgraceful. Such betrayal. However, as you might have noticed, things are none too rosy here either.
I mean, yeah. The thing is, as much as we'd love to get a favor or two from Demavend, he may not exactly be in a position to give us such a favor right now.
Yes, that is hard to miss.
I thought we'd trade blows with the Blackclads. That it would be an even match.
Yeah, see, it doesn't look like that's the case.
2 weeks. That sufficed to annihilate the army I'd spent my whole lifetime building.
And by war standards, that's quite quick.
Your Majesty, I cannot say what fate will bring, if we shall reach this war's end alive. But I wish to say now that I admire you.
Is that directed at Demavend or directed at Meve? I think it might be directed at Demavend.
Oh?
Also, a little bit odd, seeing as how, you know, Meve is Reynard's lord, or Reynard's ruler, you know what I mean. Queen. But, I mean, I suppose Meve will maybe excuse the kind words directed at Demavend, as at least as things currently stand, he's the closest thing we have to a friend, an ally, when, perhaps in other circumstances when Nilfgaard is not actively attacking Eddard, he might be a little bit more of a rival, in which case those words might not be so, Meve might not be so forgiving of Reynard's, kind words toward Demavend.
You evacuated the city, yet refused to evacuate yourself. You fight to the bitter end.
That is quite noble. That is quite noble.
But of course, a king must lead by example after all. Especially in war.
Reynard, that rumbling, you hear it? Studded boots on cobblestones. The Nilfgaardians. Prepare the men for battle.
They're coming.
Yes, Your Grace.
So, now that we're alone, what's really going on?
Ah, all a ploy. Just to get a, queen and king chance to, you know, converse without Reynard overhearing.
What? Did you not hear? I'm defending my capital, like a hero.
Meve must smell something else going on here. I guess what Meve is getting at here is, clearly, there is very, very little chance of you succeeding here, and so, what is the purpose of having the king stay here if it's inevitable that he's going to die trying to defend his capital, when maybe if he were to retreat, you could say, alright, obviously, capital is, one would assume, the most important city in Eddard, yes, but maybe if you're willing to sacrifice that, you can get by and have the Nilfgaardians settle for just Aldersburg and leave the rest of Eddard alone, and sure, you'll be considerably weaker, yes, but you may still be alive and Eddard may still exist, which perhaps would be more that you could say if Demavend remained here and the Nilfgaardians took out the king. So, it does, in some ways, seem as though perhaps he does have a bit of a death wish. So, do we call him out on what may be a bit of a fib? I mean, either of these sound like they're trying to call a bluff. There's no like, oh, no, don't worry about it. We're just here to help. No secondary agendas for us. This is worded a little more aggressively. I mean, both of these are worded aggressively as well, so I don't know. They seem quite similar in truth. The underlying message is pretty much the same.
Like a man bent on suicide, rather. Demavend, I hate to retreat as much as the next ruler, but sometimes you must pull back to strike another day.
If we must be fully honest,
Okay.
there is another reason I've not left the city.
Exactly. Okay. Looks like it worked.
See that building? That one there?
No. If you could point, perhaps?
The brothel? The Crimson Bodice?
Demavend. Come on, man. Time and a place, and this is not it.
Precisely. So, promise not to laugh. I'm a patron. A loyal one, in fact. One of the girls there, Demaretta. She's marvelous. Makes me feel young again.
What does that have to do with anything? Also, a little ironic that her name is almost identical to yours.
A young fool, you mean? Demavend, there's a war on, and...
Is he serious?
Allow me to finish. Demaretta became, well, with child. Exactly 9 months ago. Understand now?
Ah, okay. Okay, does he have an heir already, or would this technically be his only heir now? Usually, when it comes to nobility in this day and age, you would deliberately try to wed and have your heir with someone else who is also of nobility to extend the power of your kingdoms, because oftentimes that was the way you did it. Either was that, or it was conquest. Those were the two primary ways to make your state, your country, more powerful. However, you know, brothel, having a lady of the night bear your heir, if you will, probably not exactly the way in which most kings or queens would prefer to have their line extended. Probably doesn't look so good in the public eye.
She's entered confinement, having contractions.
Since yesterday. You see, I cannot leave her like this. Can't have her moved. I must stay put until she gives birth.
Oh. And it could be any day/moment now, I suppose?
And then what? Pray tell. Invite all of Nilfgaard to the christening?
Yeah. You know, it's, even once... Assuming she does give birth, once she does give birth, I mean, it's, you know, not exactly going to be the easiest time to escape from this Nilfgaardian attack, which presumably is only going to get more aggressive as they continue to lay siege.
No, my dear. There is a hidden tunnel deep beneath the city, leading far beyond its walls. Once the midwives cut the cord, we flee.
Something tells me it is not going to go anywhere near as smoothly as you would like it to. True. Oh, okay, these now suddenly look way more different than our previous options were, so you can either say, Demavend, you are being a complete fool. What are you thinking? Clearly this is, as we were saying before, you have a death wish. Or we could say, well, the child is your greatest achievement, perhaps. If it is, I imagine, perhaps, his one and only heir, or would be his one and only heir, then, I mean, it is kind of the future of Edirn in one way or another, and so it is pretty important that that child survives. Then again, still, the way in which it's happening is perhaps not exactly the textbook way in which you would normally have your Prince of Edirn, but I suppose we go this route. We're not a dictator. We're not just cruel and and bossing everybody around. Not all the time. Not all the time. So maybe this is how we proceed.
I understand. For one's child, one would do anything.
Also, bear in mind who this is coming from. This is coming from Meve, whose child usurped her throne, banished her out, and sided with the enemy, who is now the very enemy that is attacking Edirne as well. So, that... I don't know if you want to say that means a lot coming from Meve, or if that... It just puts her in a really, really awkward spot.
Odd, isn't it? Amusing, even. Midst of a war, my kingdom burning all around. And I'm happy.
Yeah, again, like phrasing and whatnot.
In that case, I can only hope your offspring, unlike mine, will continue to.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
Your Majesties, the Nilfgaardians are attacking.
All right, Raynor.
Meve, we must
We're out of
hold
time.
out. A few hours, that's all.
Really? Come on, Demavend.
I'll do what I can.
We have to hold them off so they can make their escape. Let's see. Midwives advise that women in the throes of childbirth be surrounded with a sense of calm and security. Yeah, so that's not exactly what's happening here. Demaretta was afforded no such luxury. As she opened her eyes between contractions, she witnessed the flaming missiles of Nilfgaardian war machines streak across the sky and lifeless soldiers slide from the fort's walls. "Faster!" she whispered to her forthcoming infant son. "Faster, my angel." Optional. Eliminate enough Nausicaa Brigade to give Demavend time to escape. Oh, so perhaps it is possible to fend off the Nilfgaardians, or at least win the encounter, but not succeed in having Demavend have time to escape and perhaps win his allyship, if that's a word. Let's see. So it is a story battle, of course. Special rules and extra cards, unique cards, will appear in this battle. But it will be, I would assume, at least in part, our usual built-in deck. So, let us begin. Let's see what we're getting ourselves into. This is, I would imagine, the final encounter, or at least the final, or the first component of the final encounter in Edirne. We are on high morale, so every unit is boosted here. Let's quickly take a look, though, at what we can figure out. Oh, we have a wall. Okay. We've had so many encounters in which our opponents have a wall. It's Hefty Helga, or at least that's what this card is in multiplayer. Heavy Fire Scorpion, though. So, Machine Boss, Immobile, Permanent Resilience, so this is sticking around from one round to the next. I think we saw, or rather, didn't really see anything saying that this was a short battle, so I think it's 3 rounds, in which case, yes, that will be significant. It's staying on the board for every round. So, more importantly, though, every 4 turns on turn start, destroy Castle Gate. Oh, I see. Okay, so if we don't deal with this, our walls are eventually going to go down. Oh no, not even our palisades, our Castle Gate. And if the Castle Gate gets destroyed, then all the palisades go away as well. And it is, in theory, protecting Demavend. Let's see what his deal is. Permanent Resilience, so again, stays on the field for forever. Counter 15. That is an extremely high counter. Reduce the counter by 1 for each Nausicaa Brigade destroyed. Okay, so we can make it happen faster. Otherwise, for what it's worth, the usual game of Gwent is 16 rounds. You start with 10 cards, you draw 3 cards in between each round. So that means if we don't destroy any Nausicaa Brigades, he functionally will take the entire match for this counter to expire. When counter reaches 0, Meve wins the battle. Death Wish, Meve loses the battle. So, it sounds like the simple, straightforward way, as per usual, is to outscore our opponent. Yes. The alternative way to succeed is by either lasting long enough with Demavend alive to get this counter to tick down to 0, which, as we were saying, will take pretty much the entire match, or we can expedite the process a bit by trying to destroy those Nausicaa Brigades, which I imagine we've seen before in other encounters, although I don't remember them. They're definitely a card in multiplayer, Gwent, but I don't remember what exactly they do in Thronebreaker. So it sounds like offense is going to be the key here, trying to destroy those Nausicaa Brigades as quickly as possible and doing whatever we can to keep Demavend alive as well. And we notably do not have a lot of space here. Because we have all the palisades in the melee row, there's, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 cards on the board, means we have 5 spaces in total to work with here. But, oh, I mean, Rayla and Xavier, looking at our actual cards here that we're going to use. This combo is fantastic. It's usually one of, if not our very best combos. The problem with it is that it does require playing numerous cards to set it up, because it involves playing Rayla, playing Xavier, using Xavier to give Rayla more charges, and then with Rayla, just playing as many cards out from our deck as we possibly can. And seeing as how we only have 4 spots, it's not a lot of room to work with. It does mean that perhaps things like Bone Talisman, Alzur's Thunder, and Skull could be particularly effective. Skull could be a big factor here. Banish any number of units from your graveyard, then damage all units on a row by the amount banished. So if we can save this for late on in round 2 or 3, when we've had units go into our graveyard at the end of the round, or our opponent has had time to destroy them, this could add up to a whole lot of damage. So I'd like that. Alzur's Thunder, more of a quick source of damage, targeted damage. Whereas Bone Talisman, we've used it once, but we still don't have a great sense as to what we should expect from this. Is the effect going to change every time we use it? Is it just one mystery effect that's going to be the same every time? And I can't exactly say that I remember what it did do the previous time we attempted it, but we'll have to see. The Stray Slingers do give us some damage, as does the Stray's Cavalry. Let's see, what would the ideal cards for us be? Isabel can give us boost, yes, but damage is really the key. Alchemist is kind of interesting because, oh wait, restraint, right? So we can't target on, I imagine we, oh, hold on. Oh, he is boss, I was gonna say. Yeah, I would be surprised if we were allowed to use it on Demavend, because then that'd be a very easy way to keep him alive, comparatively speaking. Also, why does he have heads in his basket? They appear to have long ears. Are those elf heads? Demavend, I have some pretty serious questions. Knickers will presumably come out by himself. Stray's Bombers could be useful. I mean, theoretically, we can get other cards out from our deck using Rayla anyway, but again, we just want to have a sense of what we're planning around here. Reynard would be the other card in that Xavier, Rayla, Reynard combo to get as many possible charges on Rayla as we can to maximize the number of units that we get on the board. But again, with limited space, it's perhaps not the best of options for us. We might try to save that for a future round. Also, do these have resilience? They do. Not permanent resilience, just resilience. Which means they'll last to round 2, but they will not last into round 3. So that's potentially worth considering, whereas the Castle Gate does last all the way into round 3. So by round 3, we'll suddenly have way more space to work with here. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing remains to be seen, but perhaps that's the right time to be playing Rayla and Xavier. So maybe we hold off on them. I suppose the Slingers do help power up Gascon, so that's something. Cavalry gives us some damage. Maybe we stick with this. Maybe we stick with this. If we are waiting to play Rayla and Xavier, then that is a lot of cards that we are waiting to play. We'd also like to play Gascon as late as possible, because the longer we wait to play him, the more he'll get boosted up. Yes, he does still get his base power increased per movement even when he's on the board, but if we play him in round 1, he's not going to stay on the board. So he's considerably weaker than he would be in round 3. So yeah, I mean, that means 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5, maybe 6 in round 1. That's just enough that you'd normally be fine playing 6 cards. Any less than that starts to get a little bit questionable. And that's including the very questionable Bone Talisman, and not sure if Alzur's Thunder is going to make much sense for us, but okay, we'll give it a shot.
Defend the king! We must stop them!
Okay. So it's a Fire Scorpion. Damage enemy by 2. They're the Nausicaa Brigades. Oh, hold on. Wait a second. They're 4 power? So this probably goes without saying, but using Meve Broadsword on them does look really tempting. Let's see. Every turn on turn end, move 1 row toward the opponent and duel a random unit on its current side. Oh. Oh. So dueling, I'm not sure if we've really seen... Oh, we've seen 1 or 2 cards with dueling in Thronebreaker thus far. They take turns dealing damage to each other. Most importantly, though, you might say, oh, well, sure, that just means that, you know, if your card is stronger, you'll always win. It's no big deal. Not exactly, because the one that is initiating the duel hits first. So the math gets a little complicated, but it means Nausicaa Brigade deals 4 damage to, say, Demavend. So Demavend gets weakened by that 4 points of damage. In this case, he has some armor to tank that hit, fortunately. But if he takes 4 damage, say he doesn't have the armor, then his power gets reduced down to 13, and so when he's hitting back, yes, he will take out that Nausicaa Brigade, but he's not going to deal as much damage as he would have initially done, and each time that happens, he gets weaker and weaker until eventually those duels become strong enough to take him out entirely. And of course, if they have any bigger dueling units, or they have a way to boost these cards, then that starts to become a lot scarier. So, with that in mind, I think what we do here is, why don't we, I think we go Stray's Cavalry to mark the Heavy Fire Scorpion, because this looks like, let's see, after 4 turns on turn start, destroy Castle Gate. Yeah, we want to get rid of you as quickly as possible if we can. That is not a lot of time, to be honest. Not a lot of time to take you out. Yes, Alzur's Thunder is 10 damage. That is quite good, but it's not enough by itself by any means. So I think we do Stray's Cavalry on you initially. Ooh, you will deal 2 damage as well whenever we use our leader ability. So that's nice. Yeah, I think it's definitely this. It's that. Ooh, that's also pretty nasty. And by pretty nasty, I mean that is potentially extremely nasty. But my hope is taking both of them out. That will, of course, reduce Demavend's cooldown by 2, which is quite useful. And it's still going to be a while, but it does expedite the process, and dropping you down to a 5 means you're getting closer to removal range. Technically, Alzur's Thunder, either directly or even indirectly, could take you out. And Scepter of Storms is not that far away either. Let's see. Oh, I didn't even look at their leader ability. Menno is a significant card in multiplayer Gwent. But let's see. They have more Nausicaa Brigade, so unfortunately, we no longer have our leader ability here to immediately deal with these guys. We can move them into the opposite row, or the range row, using a Slinger, which is tempting. Definitely tempting. Are the Palisades basically just a means to prevent the Nausicaa Brigades from breaking through for a brief moment? So what does he do? Spawn 2... Okay, he spawns 2 Nausicaa Brigades. So, yes, we should expect to see more of these coming every turn. And... I mean, they are the weakest card right now. So this would destroy one of them, for what it's worth. But I think what we might do is Stray's Slinger to move them. What do you do? Boost an allied machine by 4, give it resilience. Whoa, that's strong. Okay. Yeah, so I suppose we shouldn't be too surprised that they're going the siege engine route, given how they're laying siege to Aldersburg. But I think we still go this route.
Thing about slings,
and I guess move you as well. And then this would be enough to get rid of both those Nausicaa Brigades, which we just take that opportunity while we can. Once again, reducing Demavend's cooldown, or rather his ice counter, to 11. And we actually kind of like if they destroy some of our cards here. I mean, we do get a little bit of damage from the... we do get some damage from the Stray's Cavalry on Heavy Fire Scorpion, which is great. However, every card that goes into our graveyard becomes fuel for Skull, which, well, this Heavy Fire Scorpion is, well, it is about to destroy the Castle Gate. So, that, I think, don't totally understand the wording on the Nausicaa Brigade. Every turn and move 1 row toward the opponent. That makes sense. And duel a random unit on its current side. I guess it just means duel any unit on our side of the board, but does that not matter where they are on the board for them? If that's to happen, it's just going to happen no matter what? That's the part I'm not super clear on. So, we can move the 2 brigades again. Damage an enemy unit by 4 and its adjacent units by 2. And if you don't hit Demavend, if you hit these guys and try to take some of them out, honestly, again, not the worst thing in the world. It gives us more fuel for Skull. But we move you guys. We can get rid of one of them with the Scepter of Storms, which is certainly good. But we'd love to get rid of both of them, ideally. Of course, it's just not quite possible yet. You just get a charge every turn on turn start. Yeah, it's no way we can force feed us into getting additional charges of that, unfortunately. So, I mean, if we had made more of a point of going straight for the Fire Scorpion, the heavy Fire Scorpion, then perhaps Alzur's Thunder there would have made some more sense. If we had moved it around a bit first, weakened it, maybe targeted it with our leader ability, but we prioritized the Nausicaa Brigade. I think we'll continue to try doing that. That is the approach we've taken thus far, and so I think we kind of need to stick with it. But the damage they deal is definitely going to start to add up quite a bit here. They only have 2 cards remaining in their hand, for what it's worth, though, so they can't take too many more turns in this round, fortunately for us. And Demavend's counter getting lower. Getting lower. There it goes.
They're getting close! Devils take all, help me!
Ooh, that boosts them as well. I forgot that's a thing. And that is the fire, which is also unfortunate. And they happen to be dueling Demavend, / targeting Demavend. So that's, of course, what we very much don't want to have happen. There's the dueling. We have 1 unit in our graveyard, which means we can do 1 damage with Skull, but that's obviously not exactly ideal. We can, however, move 3 Nausicaa Brigades back into their range row and take one of them out with Scepter of Storms once again. And we're getting closer, but we're still certainly not there. We could Alzur's Thunder and remove 3 of them, dropping Demavend down to 7 turns. This counter does not change. Oh, I thought this counter also went down every time we destroyed one of the, or rather every time either our turn started or our turn ended. But no, it only moves from destroying those Nausicaa Brigades. So if we are going that route, then we truthfully need to go all out on attacking them. So, okay. Okay then. Yikes. No, I mean, it's consistent with the strategy that we've taken thus far, just more so that, yeah, I was hoping that we were going to get one more source, one more way to boost up, or, well, to get Demavend to become, to improve his cooldown more quickly. Can Isbel's Order ability hit Demavend, or does that one also only hit basic units? It's nothing that says restraint. I mean, we're not actively targeting anyone with that ability. It randomly disperses the boosts on our side, so there's no way of knowing definitively. Also, does she not get boosts while she's... Does she not power up her ability while she's in our deck? If so, then that is quite unfortunate. Because they're obviously dealing a pretty solid bit of damage here. But I think what we do is we go 1 more turn. They have 1 more card in this round. I think we can play the Slinger, move these guys out, and try to remove another one with Scepter of Storms. And then on our next turn, that means we'll have our... no, we need 2 more turns before we get our leader ability back. We could remove all of them with Alzur's Thunder right now. We could see what the heck Bone Talisman does for us this time, but I don't know. I don't know. I think we go Slinger 1 more time here. Weaken them. Get rid of one of them. Drop Demavend down to cooldown 9. But the damage is going to start to get pretty crazy pretty soon, because we are going all in on taking out these Nausicaa Brigades and not really paying much mind to the siege engines.
Meve! We must hold on a bit longer.
I'm working on it, Demavend. I'm working on it. Okay, so now the downside of having moved those Nausicaa Brigades that time was that we did... That was our last source of movement for them, and we did get these Nausicaa Brigades on a different amount of power, which means when we do get our leader ability back on our next turn, we can get rid of all these Nausicaa Brigades on 4 power, yes, but these 2 power ones, oddly enough, will actually be a little bit tricky to get rid of, unless we opt for an Alzur's Thunder here and now, which I don't feel great about. Can we give additional charges to Scepter of Storms with Xavier? That being 1, 2, and start damaging one of these guys. So get Xavier, or rather, get Demavend down to cooldown 7. Still not quite good enough. Yeah, this is a tough turn. This is a very tough turn. Don't want to use Alzur's Thunder, but we might need to use Alzur's Thunder. And oddly enough, we might need to use it on this 2 power 1 right here. Get rid of the other 2 power 1, get rid of this 4 power 1. This 4 power 1 will survive. Or no. No, we go Scepter of Storms, take out one of these guys. Then we use Alzur's Thunder to remove all of the remaining Nazgûl Brigades. Yeah. Get Demavend down to a 6. And then next time, on their next turn, when they use their leader ability to get 2 more Nazgûl Brigades. Actually, they've already passed in this round. Ooh. They are in the lead this round, for what it's worth. Those are order abilities, which means they can't use them when they've already passed. Interestingly enough. I think we go Alzur's Thunder. I think we do this. Lowers you down to an 8. Then we do this. Lowers you down to a 6. Also gets Knickers out, which, not really sure that's going to help us all that much because we have not passed them yet. We may want to go a little bit further here and perhaps drop a Gascon. I mean, it's overkill. It's definitely overkill. But it would mean that we, at the very least, do win round 1. And that way, if we, for whatever reason, do not succeed with Demavend, then at least we're in better shape to try to win in the more traditional sense. But I think either way, we obviously have to end our turn here. Fortunately, Demavend did not take damage from the fire or anything like that. We do gain a charge for Scepter of Storms every turn, but we're taking damage from the fire as well, which does complicate things. We could Bone Talisman, but we don't know what it's going to do. So, is it enough to do what we needed to do? Maybe, maybe not. I think the safest bet is probably Gascon. So let's use him. And then, yes, he is definitely our biggest point slam card. That's not as big of a lead as I'd hoped that might be. We can use our leader ability, but I really, really don't think we want to. Because, yeah, we would very much like to hold on to that for a future turn in which our opponent has many more of those Nazgûl Brigades out there for us to target. And we can use Scepter of Storms because that damage is going to go away at the end of the round anyway. They're not only have they passed, they're completely out of cards, so we could potentially justify playing another turn here. Which one did he just eat? Did he eat the Talisman? He ate the Talisman, didn't he? Okay, that's comparatively fine. Knickers, if you just ate Skull or Xavier or Rayla, I would have been very displeased. But it is sufficient to win round 1. Does the fire remain from one round to the next? It does not, fortunately. But Demavend is out of armor. So we are starting to run out of time here for sure. We did draw into Isbel. Oh, so yes, to answer our previous question, she absolutely does get enough, she does get her boost powered up when she's still in our deck. 70 is huge. And, problem is, they have so much damage on the board here that they could very feasibly take Isbel out before we get the chance to use her leader, or her order ability. Of course, that means one less turn in which they're targeting Demavend with all that damage, which is nice. But then again, we would love to be boosting Demavend up by, you know, if it gets boosted roughly evenly between these two, then that's 35 boosts on him, which is insane, and one would assume would suddenly make this much, much easier for us to achieve this objective we are trying to achieve here. Also for Skull, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 units in our graveyard. So we can deal 7 damage to all these guys, which, for what it's worth, is enough to get rid of all of the siege engines other than the heavy fire scorpion, and this has already done its thing, having destroyed the castle gate. So, you know, maybe that's our play here, is Skull on our first turn, or if we go first, wait until they play more units in their range row and then use Skull. And once we've done that, we've cleared out a bit of space, a little bit of time perhaps, to more safely play Isbel. And, I mean, then they have the Duelists as well that they're going to end up playing with all those Nausicaa Brigades. It's still not a guarantee, but I think we may have a plan to still make Isbel work. Stray's Cavalry, are you going to have enough time to work here? Now, technically speaking, we did win round 1, and we could dry pass in round 2, because we could just win round 1, win round 3. We don't need to win round 2, get card advantage going into round 3. Technically speaking, from a traditional Gwent standpoint, that would be the play here, because we already have card advantage. Well, we would have even greater card advantage going into round 3, which would be awesome. But we would, then again, if Demavend dies, then we just lose. So they could continue to play in round 2 and just target Demavend exclusively, and they would win. So no, I think we do need to push in round 2, and given how we still have card advantage in round 2, that's certainly not a bad thing for us either. We can make it work either way, theoretically. I'm just not sure the Stray's Cavalry is going to have enough time to do its thing. Yes, it is a source of damage, which is nice, but might we prefer Stray Slingers to move some more people around, a Bomber to set a row on fire, or Alchemist? I don't know how helpful that's going to be, but I feel like we can do better than this. I feel like we can still do better than this. I think we might settle for you. Okay, we do go first. So I think we save leader ability. We want to wait to do that until they have some Nausicaa Brigades out there. Perhaps, if we're feeling really bold, even wait, not even use it on our next turn, but the turn after that when they have 4 Brigades on the board, and then we can take out all 4 of them with our leader ability simultaneously. That's quite tempting. I think maybe for that reason we do play Skull now. I know I was saying maybe we wait a turn to do that until they have more units on the board. Yes, but so those Nausicaa Brigades, they start in the range row, but do they immediately move to the melee row after that? They might. They might. Could also go Bomber first. Maybe Bomber first turn makes the most sense. We obviously want to play that as early as we can to maximize the damage from it. The one thing about Isbel is that the earlier we play her, the fewer units we have on the board, the more likely we're going to get more of those boosts randomly put onto Demavend. So, technically speaking, the earlier the better. But given how they have 4 damage here, and they have 2 damage here, then Isbel is not safe until we do more to get rid of these guys. So that's why I think we do need to do something to clear some space for her first. And Bomber is not so much the answer as much as it is Skull, but I think Bomber is more time sensitive. So let's go this route. We know they can damage adjacent units. So let's make sure that we try to split our units as much as we can across the different rows. They are going after Demavend. They are aggressively going after Demavend. That is concerning. Another Fire Scorpion. Yeah, so those guys move immediately. Okay. So things are looking a little scary here. Things are looking a little scary here. But I think what we do now is, yes, we definitely are going to use our leader ability to take out these Nausicaa Brigades. We may need to go Skull on this range row because their damage... Oof. 2 damage. 2 damage. Ooh. Man. Might we have needed to play Isbel right off the bat and just dared them to go after her rather than Demavend? I don't know. I don't know. Demavend is dangerously low is what scares me here. That's 4 damage. You're not quite ready to go, but of course 4 damage gets him down to a 5, and at that point, one more round of that, and with this damage added in, and Demavend is going down. So you're gonna duel as well, so we definitely need to get rid of you, though. Leader ability can take care of you. Skull can get rid of all but you 2, right? We said you're not much of a concern, but you at 9 power. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We can't get rid of you. We can damage you significantly. maybe the fire would finish you off. It is a 33% chance of that happening. But perhaps we can settle for just one of those fire scorpions landing. And then next turn we play Isabel. I mean, it's either that or it's straight slingers, right? And if it is straight slingers, then I still don't love that. Because then we get, presumably we're moving these brigades, getting them down to a 2, and that means that when more brigades appear on their next turn, leader ability is not going to be able to hit all of them because they're going to have different numbers of power. So, yeah. I think that leaves us at Skull, range row, leader ability on the brigades. And we hope that Demavend has enough to hold on here. And, oh, once we do that, actually, we can destroy that Fire Scorpion with Scepter of Storms if we save that for last. So, I think we go that route. Definitely. Okay. I like that. That gets Demavend down to a 3. We're getting close. The problem is, now leader ability is on cooldown for quite some time. So that is, that's going to mean that's one of our best sources of damage, and the other great source of damage was, of course, Skull, but we are probably about to use that here to keep Demavend safe. So, all of you must go. Pretty serious damage, and so we can use the Scepter of Storms, which was another potential source of damage, to get rid of this Fire Scorpion, because we don't want them targeting Demavend with it. And yeah, we'll get an additional charge on the Heavy Fire Scorpion, which is a little unfortunate that we're wasting a bit of damage there, but I think it's a sacrifice that we have to make here. Okay, boosting self, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. The thing is that now the scary part is these brigades are going to duel some people. Random units. And so we can damage one of them down to a 2, making it so it's not quite as threatening, but I think we might need to play Isabel here. She may end up taking the hit from one of those. If she does, then of course that means no 76-point boost, which would be amazing. Again, not all that's going to go to Demavend, but I believe some of it can, because there's nothing here to suggest that this cannot get applied to bosses, although I could be wrong. And if I am wrong, that is, it's pretty horrible. Pretty horrible for us then. We could Stray Slinger, move the Nausicaa Brigades, and you, and in doing so, drop both of you down to a 2, meaning Scepter Storms can get rid of one of you. That gets Demavend down to 2. What do we think about that? I think all we need to do is Demavend needs to survive this next turn. If Demavend can survive this next turn, we might have just enough damage on the subsequent turn to get him down to 0. He might be down to 1. Between Straight Slingers and Scepter Storms, we can definitely at least take out 2 of these, otherwise we might be relying on the fire to get the last kill for us. It's gonna be close, but we're gonna take a chance. Remember, do not put anyone next to Demavend. Do not encourage them to go that route.
I hoped we could solve this some other way.
I think we do need to go Scepter of Storms to minimize the damage a little bit. It does mean you're getting boosted a bit, but honestly, we don't really care about you. It's the damage that matters most. So this is key. This is huge. What do they go with here? More boosting is fine. The dueling, however, they actually do move in. And they actually got destroyed in the... I forgot that by dueling, they were going to probably end up destroying themselves. And that means they took each other out. And, well, now, suddenly, with Stray Slinger plus the Scepter of Storms, we can destroy one Nausicaa Brigade, and in doing so, confirm the victory. However, we have to see. Does this also apply to Demavend? I must know. It does. So we would have been totally fine, regardless of whether we had this finishing combo here, as long as Isabel survived that first, or that round of dueling, and as we saw, fortunately, they all went for Knickers, and Knickers was able to take the hit. Good boy, Knickers. And Isabel survived, so no problem. But
the white of an eye from half a league away.
to finish things off, there we go.
No! Ashes!
Little bit of RNG,
It worked! Now
but it
retreat
worked.
to the tunnel!
There you have it. Victory.
With their forces combined, the rulers managed to hold the old town long enough for Demaretta to bear the king's offspring, a healthy, hardy boy. When the
Nice.
midwife slapped the infant, his scream carried above the roar of battle. Soon afterwards, the defenders abandoned the walls and left the city through a secret tunnel.
The baby scared
The
them off.
Nilfgaardians, furious that not one but two northern sovereigns were among the escapees, razed Aldersburg to the ground.
Ooh. Well, I mean, as everyone knows, babies are obviously the Nilfgaardians' greatest weakness. So, just spread the word. Spread the word.
Thank you. If not for you, the devils would have devoured us.
Yeah, so it sounds like the final result is Aldersburg destroyed. However, Demavend and Meve both escaped, and Demavend, with his ulterior motive of trying to make sure that his child was born, we did succeed there as well. So, certainly not everything all sunshine and rainbows, but we did achieve what we set out to achieve.
I should say it was nothing. But the truth is, I need your aid.
Yeah, now comes the part where we ask a favor of you.
Aid? But you see, my army is no more. I must pull back, regroup.
Yes, but see, the thing is...
Pull back? Where to? The golden sun flies over your entire realm.
Yeah, there's that too. I mean, we kind of just... I don't know if we have explored quite literally the entirety of Edirn, or if there are other areas of Edirn that are not technically on the map that we were venturing across. But obviously, everywhere that we went, Nilfgaard was already there and had crushed any Edirnian forces that were there at one point in time. So, yeah, if that's what you're referring to, there's nowhere to go. If you have additional territory to retreat back to in the area that we've not yet seen, then maybe, but call me a little bit skeptical there.
To Redania, to take shelter at the court there.
Oh, a different northern realm. That's bold. That's very bold. Lyria and Rivia join Edirn, who then attempts to join Redania. I don't know, that's awfully ambitious.
And then? Will you sit and watch the fool juggle apples as Nilfgaard parcels all Edirn out to its settlers?
Yeah, that too. You're just gonna let Nilfgaard waltz on over and seize the entirety of Edirn?
Meve, one must know when to fold and when to double down.
So expecting him to say hold.
Stretch the front. Winter will soon be here. Let the costs claw away at them.
I don't know if that's enough to stop them, though.
A year, two, then we strike. And we shall prove the Empire is a colossus with feet of clay.
I don't know, Demavend. I don't know. That's a long time to wait. You are a coward, or do as you see fit. Oh, man. Now we are advising King Demavend on the overarching military strategy of his entire kingdom. His entire kingdom. Either, how dare you just roll over and let the Nilfgaardians take Edirn in its entirety, or, you know what? It's your kingdom. It's up to you to choose. Whether that decision is the right decision or the wrong decision, we'll let you make it, because ultimately, it's your choice. I mean, it is kind of weird that as the ruler of a totally separate kingdom, we are the one making this type of advice, but, I mean, I am quite surprised that he is so willing to abandon Edirn. It is quite striking. On the other hand, who are we to tell him what to do with Edirn? He's the king of Edirn. We are not. But maybe we need to whip some sense into him? I don't know. This is kind of my first react. I mean, like a little more a middle ground. Both of these are... this is not extreme. This is a little extreme. he might not know what's best for him here. Because 2 years sounds like a long time. Yes, sure, it is. War is costly. The winter may be tough, but to give Nilfgaard all that time to settle in unopposed, I mean, it's one thing if they're actively fighting for that entire duration, they have to spend additional resources on war assets to actively fight off all of Edirn and the other northern realms like Lyria and Rivia. But if we're just sitting back and letting them do whatever they'd like, then we let them establish more of a foothold in Edirn. That becomes much more dangerous because then they can do things like more firmly establish their supply lines and start to gather the resources from Edirn directly rather than shipping everything straight up from Nilfgaard, because you give them a couple of years in Edirn and they can do a whole lot with that time. Again, if we're not there to disrupt them and make life difficult for them, which I'm not getting the sense that that's what Demavend is looking to do. I'm getting the sense that Demavend is quite literally saying he's going to sit back and do nothing to stop them for a year or two and just entirely focus on regrouping and building back up Edirn from Redania. So yeah, you know what? It may jeopardize this alliance to a certain extent. But I suppose this is more in line with my personal opinion.
You're a coward, Demavend. A common coward.
Perhaps so. But mind, courage alone wins no wars. Soldiers do. And Nilfgaard simply has many more.
Yes. I'm not suggesting that you can somehow win in a straightforward war here, because as you say, Nilfgaard clearly outnumbers you, outpowers you significantly. However, to just sit back and allow them to do whatever they'd like for 1 to 2 years, I think is a huge mistake. I think you need to at least have some kind of skirmishes and raids to disrupt them, keep them unsettled so that they cannot rebuild, or, well, I mean, not so much rebuild as much as just set up shop in Edirn, perhaps even more effectively than you do in Redania.
I can't live like that.
So what shall you do instead?
Fight on. Until I win. Or the black-clad curs tear me apart.
Yeah, see, Meve is not one to step aside from such a conflict.
Gods, such pity I have for your husband. The poor man must have had a rough go of it.
Hey.
He seemed content with his life while it lasted. Yet I'm serious, Demavend, in my request. You truly won't aid me. Provide nothing at all.
And again, the question of, obviously we were disagreeing with Demavend, and so we were at risk of perhaps upsetting him a little bit and maybe not getting as solid support from him. So hopefully, after giving him a pretty huge favor, he's still willing to help us in some way, shape, or form, although perhaps not quite as much as if we had chosen the other option. Well, we get Royal Decree. This card has been added to your army and can be found in the command tent. It is a great card in Gwent multiplayer.
I will tell my men whoever so wishes can join your party and fight on. But please, curb your excitement. They are tired. Few will choose the path of greater resistance.
And now it is, on one hand, awesome, he's helping us. On the other hand, you were just talking about how you don't think that anyone, or that you're trying to gather as many soldiers as possible because you're clearly outnumbered, and it's mostly a numbers game for you. How many people do you have versus how many people does Nilfgaard have? And yet, suddenly you're just handing us soldiers? Feels really counterintuitive / hypocritical for you to do that.
But.
Even if you don't think many of them will join us.
Are you familiar with the saying, when at wit's end, a dwarf's your friend?
Can't say I am.
Yes, it and many others.
Yes, I am,
Yet
totally.
as much as I appreciate folk wisdom, I prefer facts to philosophy at the moment. Preferably facts relevant to my situation.
Are you saying perhaps the dwarves could prove to be our greatest ally at a time like this?
How about this? Mahakam is but a week's ride from here. And there you'll find thousands of dwarves armed to the teeth. Enough to turn the tides of this war, I venture.
Also, for what it's worth, this is an alternate version of the Blood and Wine soundtrack that's going right now, which is a nice touch. That's very cool. I mean, we're obviously not in technically, that is from Nilfgaard. That the location in which you hear that in The Witcher 3, this bass song, this is based off of. But yeah, it's a little odd.
Yes, they could. If not for
Great
another
song, though.
fact, that the dwarves have always been famously indifferent to strife between humans. They'll never come to my aid. Bah, I doubt they'll even let me into their land.
What is the dwarven relationship with Nilfgaard? I know we heard previously that the elves, and maybe the Scoia'tael on the whole, were actually, to a certain extent, allied with Nilfgaard, because Nilfgaard was more friendly toward them than the Northern Realms were. The dwarves, many of them, technically consider themselves part of the Scoia'tael, but I don't think that's necessarily the case that every single dwarf is part of the Scoia'tael, unlike in Gwent multiplayer, where, yes, for the most part, every dwarf is part of Scoia'tael. I don't really think that's necessarily the case, as much as that's an oversimplification in the case of Gwent multiplayer, so maybe there are some dwarves in Mahakam that are just more independent and willing to help.
Unless you show them this. The leaden ring. A token of amity given to me by the Elder-in-Chief.
Oh, that sounds useful.
That's not to say they'll welcome you with open arms, but they will hear you out. And that is something.
Okay, I guess that's more than we had 5 minutes ago.
Dwarven infantry I'd make good use of. I shall do as you say. Or at least try.
It's a start.
Good. And to ease your journey somewhat, I'll give you as your guide the best man, or rather woman, for the task. Rayla!
I was gonna say, that's gotta be Rayla, right?
Yes, Your Grace?
You've been to Mahakam with me many times. You know their paths. Take Queen Meve and her party there.
Nice. Of course, Rayla, in some ways, has been the most important card in our deck thus far, so, of course, we got her at the beginning of Eddern, so with us presumably leaving Eddern here, there was that fear, that thought that maybe she was going to abandon us here and stay with her king, but if she does stay with us, then that would be quite useful.
'Twould be an honor, Your Majesty.
I'll send messengers ahead that the dwarfs may expect your arrival.
Hopefully, that means they will be more welcoming when we do arrive, but I have a few doubts about that.
Until then, good luck, Meve. And may we one day waltz upon the grave of our foe, Emperor Emir.
Indeed.
May it be so. Just as long as I get to lead.
Ah, of course. Farewell, Queen.
Farewell, Demavend.
Meve left Aldersburg in ill spirits. Rather than provide the help she had hoped for, Demavend had merely sent her on to Mahakam. Her way west was lit first by the glow of a burning city, then by the smoldering remains of charred villages by the roadside.
I mean, I don't know what else we
Clear
expected
the war
Demavend
against
to do.
Nilfgaard had taken a bitter turn. Each stranger was now treated as an enemy, and the customarily hospitable Aedirnians slammed their doors at anyone's approach. The party's morale was somber as well, and did not even improve with the first sight of mountains looming in the distance. Wandering among the ashes, Meve entered the dwarves' domain.
Among the ashes,
Along
Achievement
perilous,
acquired.
steep paths, Black Rayla led the Queen and company towards Mahakam, a dwarven homeland. There, among snow-capped peaks, someone awaited.
Rayla, you brought strangers.
Gabor, I present to you Meve, Queen of Lyria and Rivia.
Ah, a queen. Crivens. Well then.
A A large shadow swept across the sky.
Oh!
The dwarf swallowed the rest of his greeting as all raised their gazes to see a dragon soar swiftly toward Mount Carbon.
Well, that's probably not a good
Keltos.
thing.
Dinna be afeard, he isn't a threat to us.
The dwarf had broken the silence gently, he himself quite familiar with this altogether unusual sight.
And now, sit yourselves down afore the pottage grows cold.
But... Flew. Drake?
Yeah, so, dragons are kind of a big deal. Notably, theoretically, creatures so powerful that even witchers do not dare to take them on.
Stone shriveling marvel, innit? Makes you almost sad the lizards are dying out.
And Gabor Zigrin is a name that I recognize from Gwent multiplayer, of course, but really don't know much about him outside of that.
Should you not worry more about the fate of your brethren? That creature will soon have all Mahakam aflame.
Ha! Keltos? No! He's lived here centuries. Harmless for the most part. Now, your grace. A taste?
Something tells me that this Keltulus is not going to be nearly as peaceful as Gabor Zigrin is trying to lead us to believe. Of course, that is also a name that sounds familiar from Gwent multiplayer, but also a name that I really don't know much about outside of that.
No, none. Though your offer of repast I value, good sir.
Oh, no need of that. Gabor, please. Enchanted to make your acquaintance.
Gabor here's a true local notable, from one of Mahakam's leading clans, the Zigrins. But then he wouldn't be our guide if he wasn't. A guide for all important guests.
Oh, okay.
A pleasure. And as I said, I thank you for your hospitality, but I've no time to feast now. I must speak to your ruler at once.
Don't mean no offence, but Elder-in-Chief Bruverhoog's a recluse of sorts, as humans go. Didn't even meet the ones that wear crowns. But I suppose I could, meaning if you drafted a letter...
Oh, really?
Her Majesty's got Demavend's signet, given willingly.
Ah. Well, that's a sheep of a different sort. We didn't let many human folk into Mahakam, and for good reason. So those who we let come through the second gate get blindfolded. Just after they've surrendered their arms at the first.
Alright, that's, I'm not sure Meve is gonna be so willing to do that.
But you've the leaden ring. Given one of your kind to confirm trust and amity. So, we're certain we can treat you as one of our own.
Well, that's good to hear.
Elder-in-Chief's in the pass visiting. Looking to his flock. Come on. No reason you two shouldn't jabber right quick.
Though the Lyrian infantry rose half an ell taller than the dwarf, he moved with remarkable ease through the waist-high snow, while those behind him slipped and stumbled on the ice-slick rocks. Meve and Rayla trailed the party, so they might speak in private.
Card acquired, Gabor Zigrin. Great to hear. As I said, card that I recognize from Gwent multiplayer, but as we have seen many times before, cards that exist in multiplayer always have at least modified, if not completely different abilities in Thronebreaker, so excited to see what he does here. Though the Lyrian infantry rose half an ell taller than... Oh, right, this is what we heard before. Okay, so Rayla and me speaking in private. Rayla, I'm grateful. You disliked non-humans, I thought. This is true. Or was it just elves? The ring? How did it wind up in Demavend's hands? It sounds like, based on the color text, it's been a long time since we had an open dialogue like this before, but I think maybe this sort of goldish text is the thing that progresses the main conversation along, whereas these white text options are more so side questions for additional information if you'd like to, but optional. So maybe we start with those. And yeah, I mean, as we were saying, maybe it's just the elves, or Scoia'tael specifically, whereas in this case, Gabor Zigrin is technically not a part of the Scoia'tael, even though many dwarves are. A bit of a gray area there. Bit of a gray area. Let's hear what Rayla has to say about it.
Non-humans you despised immensely, I believed.
They don't bother me a bit. Long as they stay in their lands, seek fortune nowhere else.
Okay, you know what? Maybe that's actually a pretty reasonable stance.
I detest only those who infest our cities, humbly insist on belonging to our guilds, holding office in our institutions, armies.
Okay, again, like, that's probably still perhaps a little far, a little racist, but not quite as extreme as we might have anticipated that her stance would have been.
Yet some find a place for themselves, blend in marvelously.
It's never lasting. They're different, odd, strain's inevitable, and then they'll always stab a human in the back.
See, like, that's the part where, yeah, you know, maybe you just need to learn to trust some people sometimes. Okay, what about this ring, though? Demavend just kind of said, oh, by the way, we're going to give this to you, and trust me, it's going to help you when you try to meet the dwarves, but didn't get much in the way of details.
The ring. However did Demavend come to possess it?
Elder-in-Chief himself gave it to him, years ago. A decade, perhaps more.
Why?
Oh, you must have heard the tale, Your Grace. You see,
Afraid not.
formerly, Foltest of Temeria's sovereign of Mahakam, he believed it was his right to tax any Liand lands, so he sent collectors.
My guess is the dwarves were not so keen on abiding by that.
Well, the dwarves felt stripped, so they stripped the collectors down to their natural state. They put them in beer barrels, they then rolled down the mountainside.
Yeah.
Ah, my. That incited Foltest's ire, I'm sure.
Indeed, Ember Hot Ire. A punitive expedition was assembled immediately. We're about to set off when Demavend managed to dissuade Foltest. Elder-in-Chief gave him the ring in thanks.
I see it all now. Prevented Mahakam's slaughter, Demavend did.
In a way, I suppose.
Your Majesty, Demavend prevented a slaughter, true. But Foltest's in the Temerians, not the dwarves. Mahakam and fortifications. Well, you'll soon see. No human will take them, ever.
High praise. Very high praise. And you know, call me crazy, but I don't think Rayla hands out that kind of praise all that often, so it means a lot coming from her. And she's, of course, no random person off the streets. No, she is a skilled soldier, so she would know a thing or two about having strong defenses.
The Elder's gratitude, then? Not certain I know where it came from.
Had the dwarves crushed the Temerians? No, when they had done so, what would have happened? Why, retaliation against all non-humans in Temeria. Bruver knew this, so in fact, Demavend saved them.
Interesting. A back and forth tug of war a bit. One person strikes, the other person strikes back in one way or another, and everybody ends up losing. Unless Demavend comes in and extends an olive branch.
Exceptionally provident, the Elder-in-Chief.
And shrewd as a swarm of snakes. So when you speak, beware his hiss, and weigh your every word.
Oh, okay. That's good to know. In that case, that sounds like all the side conversations we can have. Let us proceed with what I believe is the primary point of conversation here.
Rayla, your aid proved an unexpected bounty.
Your Grace, to fight arm in arm with one so bold as you is an honor from which I'll not readily resign.
I was a little bit surprised to see how willing and able Rayla or mostly willing, Rayla was to part ways with her leader, her king, Demavend, and just come back and help us out. Queen Meve, I mean, yes, sure, he's still Meve. She's queen of Lyria and Rivia, so she's no beggar off the side of the street requesting for Rayla's aid. But I mean, then again, she's not Rayla's ruler. Demavend is, so you would have thought that Rayla was technically, under yes, Demavend is her ruler. It's her boss, in a way, if you want to put it that way. And so, for her to just say, oh, no, that's okay. I'm fine. I don't need to work with him anymore. And just willingly sacrifice or put her life at risk for an entirely different set of, I guess, technically 2 countries, rather than her own it's a little surprising, actually. Sure, she's a warrior. Absolutely, yes. But you would think, primarily, for Eddard. And if not Eddard exclusively, then mostly just helping us out, the Lyrians and Rivians, because it was indirectly going to help Eddard.
I was to lead you to Mahakam, King Demavend's order. As to my duties afterwards, I received no instructions.
That is true.
So until a sealed scroll containing such arrives, I will serve your grace under her command.
Wow. Okay. Sure. I've always room for those of your ilk in my ranks, or you must return to Demavend. It's time. I mean, as I said, a little odd that Demavend insisted on Rayla accompanying us rather than helping him when it seems like, as he was saying, he could use all the soldiers he can get. But, I mean, then again, as we were saying before, in some ways we built our entire deck around Rayla, or at the very least, she is one of, if not the most powerful card that we have. So yeah, sure. Hard to say no.
I'm content, Rayla. The times are such that no aid can I dismiss.
Chosen one evil over another. Rayla is an evil. I mean, yes, she does some controversial things, says some controversial things, true, and encourages us to do some controversial things as well. But that's a little extreme. That's a little extreme. Saying choosing one evil over another in that circumstance, at least, obviously, pretty clear that it just says that whenever you make a consequential decision, whether it is truthfully one evil versus another or not, but still, it's odd. It's a little funny.
I'm humbled, your grace.
Let us move on. I've grown amply curious of this Elder-in-Chief, this Bruva-Hoog.
Indeed.
Your Grace, I have a message for your eyes only.
Oh. Okay, we don't hear much from that Grey Rider at all. And, of course, we can now see that it is quite cold and snowy on the mountain. We take a little look around here. I mean, we'll, of course, explore more in the future. But what is the deal with this note? Lots of people to talk to. For a second, I thought that was like 3 exclamation points above this individual's head. I was like, what? This person really wants to talk to us. So yeah, lots of people we can chat with here. Like, basically everyone. But why don't we chat with you? Okay, oh, a letter. I guess we're not actually talking with you directly. Okay, so we'll speak with them on a later occasion, but as for this report, letter from Captain Tobias, which apparently we haven't read, and also this report on Mahakam, which I imagine is the thing that we were just hearing about. So it looks like we can see the coat of arms / sigil over to the right here, which indicates where we originally acquired this note. So these were all in Lyria, whereas these were all in Eddard, and these 2 here, the ones that we've not yet seen, are what I would assume from Mahakam, and so it's not like we got this a long time ago and missed it. No, it seems as though both of these are still brand new to us. What is the deal here? Your Majesty, as promised, I'm reporting to you on the situation in Lyria and Rivia. Your son is king in name only. True power is held by Count Caldwell and General Alpdahi. Yeah, it did seem like Caldwell was really the one pulling the strings, at least from the Lyrian / Rivian perspective, and obviously the Nilfgaardians are the ones who are really calling all the shots. From what I hear, both lust for soul control, thus conflict between them, is inevitable. That could be key. That might be a way for us to, perhaps, find a way back to ruling Lyria and Rivia. Soon Nilfgaard will start expelling peasants from the best lands of Lyria and Rivia and importing their own settlers to replace them. Willem tries to delay this process, but General Abdahi will not relent. Our prayers for your success, my lady, Captain Tobias. So that's interesting because, of course, when we first met, at least in the game, our son, it appeared as though Willem was more than willing to just completely go along with all the Nilfgaardian plans, had said that, well, we're not strong enough to fight them off, and so better to just say yes to any and everything that they want us to do. However, on this occasion, we see there is a bit of a conflict, it seems, between Willem and the Nilfgaardians, where Willem at least appears to have some sense of what is in Lyria and Rivia's best interest, trying not to have the Lyrian and Rivian common folk being expelled from their country and replaced by Nilfgaardians. As for how successful he's going to be with this attempt, is he only going to delay the inevitable? It sounds like that may be the case, but there's some indication, some sign that there is some sliver of sense remaining in that noggin of his, so perhaps that is an indication that we might find a way to, perhaps get him to change his mind? That would be ideal, of course, but, of course, long ways away from that. Remains to be seen. A lot remains to be seen, but there is still this report on Mahakam as well. Situation in Mahakam stable, unchanged for centuries. No evidence of internal opposition, open or covert. Power in Mahakam held by Elder-in-Chief Bruver Hoog, ruling on behalf of clans. Warning, Hoog extremely difficult negotiation partner, so that's going to make things difficult. I imagine that means when we do ultimately meet him, things could go, well, if we are there, maybe not even all that well, but it will be difficult for things to go well or even neutrally, perhaps, whereas probably quite easy for things to go horribly wrong. Tiresome to get him to sit down to talks, deathly wearying to convince him to make even minor compromises. Okay, so that's the thing. He's not one to compromise all that easily, only values good of Mahakam and its inhabitants. Appeals to anything else lead nowhere. During present war, Mahakam maintains strict neutrality, trades with both Nilfgaard and Northern Realms. Okay, so neutral from a war standpoint, yes, although from an economic standpoint, still doing business with both Nilfgaard and the Northern Realms. So, not totally removed from the situation in that way. Okay, so lots of new stuff for us to check out here, for sure. Conversations at the mess tent, new units and cards for us to check out at the command tent, and potentially more upgrades at the workshop as well. However, given how we just arrived in Mahakam, and we have a whole bunch of new stuff that we are going to be checking out, I think this is probably the best place for us to wrap things up here. A whole lot has transpired. We have completed the entirety of Edirn, and if we take a look at our map here, of course that means that now we are on to Mahakam, and at least initially, I was going to say before I scrolled up, that it seemed as though, Edirn was humongous, and this seemed like it was perhaps a little bit smaller, but we see you can scroll further up, you can scroll further to the east, and further up still. So perhaps that's not exactly the case here. Of course, a whole lot more for us to see, experience, and learn. And that's we'll have to wait. So thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, but I'll catch you next time.